The David Pakman Show at davidpakman.com.
Welcome back to the show. Glad to have everybody with us on the YouTube live stream, which, remember, will be temporarily suspended after this week's shows to allow for studio upgrades, including the infamous and elusive high-definition upgrade. Also with us today are people from the I Love It When I Wake Up in the Morning and Barack Obama is President Facebook page and the Too Informed to Vote Republican page. Check out both of those pages. Louis, does asexuality fall under the LGBTQ umbrella in your mind? Don't answer. Asexuality is the lack of sexual attraction to anyone or low or absent interest in sexual activity. It may be considered a lack of sexual orientation or one of the four types thereof, alongside heterosexuality, homosexuality, and bisexuality. A 2004 study placed the prevalence of asexuality at 1%. It is not the same thing as being celibate, which is behavioral and generally motivated by factors such as like personal or religious beliefs, etc. This is in a sexual orientation in the sense that asexuality in its true form is enduring, right? In other words, it is not a so-called choice like celibacy. What's your thought? You think it's part of LGBTQ?
Are you asking me if I think there are rights that these people need that they don't have, or that this is somehow in the same category?
Well, let's see. What I'm saying, I guess, is if you're asexual, the argument to say it is similar to being in the LGBTQ umbrella in that it's a sexual minority that deals with some of the same issues regarding not fitting in and maybe sometimes even persecution, right? I mean, it is kind of being, it's non-conforming in a sense to say, I'm actually asexual. It's in that sense, it could be considered part of what some would say it's the queer umbrella. You're not a lesbian, you're asexual, and it's kind of part of that umbrella. The other side of this is that I actually talked to a few gay friends of mine and said, what do you think about asexuality? And they said, you know, I personally think that it's fine to include it under the LGBTQ umbrella, but there's a lot of gay people who dislike asexuals and believe that they're actually gay and are only saying they're asexual to avoid the repercussions they perceive they may have to deal with if they come out. I'm not really talking about them.
I'm sure there are people who make that claim.
Certainly that exists, but let's assume we're talking about people who are actually asexual.
I don't think anyone would find that offensive, or, I mean, if you just say, you know, I'm just not interested in sex, I don't find anyone attractive, I have no interest in it. I mean, it doesn't seem like you're going to bother anybody. It doesn't seem like it's kind of like being an atheist, right? It's kind of like, well, I'm just not affiliated with any of it. I just have nothing to do with it.
But atheists often are discriminated against. So just not being involved in sex doesn't mean in the same way that not being involved in religion spares you from discrimination or criticism.
Oh, I'm sure it exists. Yeah.
What do you think, Natan?
Well, in the terms of people thinking it's abnormal, you could include it in, you know, the LGBT general ballpark, but in terms of civil rights,
to be clear, what you're saying is some people would say asexuality is a defect in the same way that some people argue homosexuality is a defect.
Yeah, you could include it in the sense that people have potentially a negative perception of it.
Right.
However, in terms of the civil rights thing, there's no difference that I can tell between that and just being single. And, you know, the majority of the civil rights issues related to gay marriage and gay rights are related to joint filing of taxes, Social Security, visitation in hospital, everything related to that. And if you're asexual and you don't have a partner, you're simply single.
What do you think? Is asexuality part of the LGBTQ umbrella? Send me your thoughts.